How about now? Aha! Audio. All right. Sorry about that. Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome back to another week of Future Group Friday. Hope everyone's having a good day so far, and I hope the music is balanced okay. I haven't really gotten that tuned up, but for those of you who are new to the stream, this is a series that I've been running every week for the past few months now. Maybe more than a few months. I wasn't late. I was on time. I just didn't have audio. Basically, the goal of the stream is to go through development progress for the game TagPro. So I'm a member of the Future Group and the steering committee, which is basically the group of people who decide what kind of changes TagPro actually needs, what the changes are going to look like, builds the changes, and then announces those changes to the TagPro community. If you don't know what TagPro is and you're completely new here, you can check it out at tagpro.gg. It is a free-to-play online capture the flag game. 4v4 games played live right in your browser in about 6 minutes each, and you don't even need an account. You can just head to tagpro.gg and click play now, and it will work normally. But right now, my computer is unhappy. So, Anka, this is TagPro. Oh, did he put one out? That's very exciting. That's a well-respected series. So, the goal for today, we're going to go through our usual schedule, which is start with development updates from the last week. I've got a couple of things to talk about that are hopefully interesting to you guys, but they're interesting to me. After that, we'll switch over to the candy board, go through the feedback that we've received over the last week, and then we will wrap up with a feature building session as usual. This week talking about some UI elements in game, mostly focused around a map test committee request. So I'm going to take us back to a week from today, which puts us at February 6th. And we're going to talk through what has been going on here. So a lot of this, as I've mentioned the past couple weeks, is stuff you've heard before, just because we are inching ever so slowly closer to the next release here. So the first thing that went in last week, actually the day of the stream, was another conversation about the expansion and contraction that's going on right now. So I keep showing this page here. We've lost the expansion scheduled right now. That message is gone without actually expanding the tiers, and that is a problem. So we're just fixing it so that if there is going to be an expansion, we announce it, but it's definitely going to happen when it's announced, is the short version of that. Then we've got some changes going in for the testing session that we had last week. We had a quick session on Friday night, which, hello Oddball, the parts that went well. The parts that did not go well really did not go well. What we realized, and I'm going to ramble for a minute here, is that when you want to test ranked things, you need to have a ranked database. That hopefully makes sense. You need to have players who have played ranked games. You need to have a leaderboard with players who have played ranked games and all of the things that follow from there. So we have that on the production server, on the production site, which is what you can see when you go to tagpro.koalabys.com. But when we do our testing, we do it on something called TagPro Secret. So that is a separate website that is not hosted on the same servers as the actual TagPro site. And the problem there is that when we loaded up Secret, we wanted to go test everything, and we realized that TagPro Secret's database does not have any ranked data. And so that might sound like a pretty trivial issue, but you can't do anything if there's no ranked data on this website. So we tried to test the things that were not related to ranked, and we were able to do that, but we couldn't test anything that was ranked related, which was an oversight, because we have stuff on our local database. Like if I want to build something for TagPro on my computer and make some changes, I have my own database with my own data, and I have that all set up to look like it needs to test everything that I'm building and working on and all that. Same goes for the other developers on the team. And then obviously production has a database, but Secret did not. So how do you get a database with nothing to the point where it is halfway through or 3/4 of the way through season 1 of ranked, has all that season 0 data, and has all the players and the games they've been playing? So your first option is to take the database from production and plug it into Secret, but that has some problems that I'm not going to get into right now, just related to a mixture of privacy and just like best practices with management of data. So what we decided to do instead, and this was the majority of my week, was to build a script that will populate our database with fake data that looks like real data, so that you can just get any database that you want up to date, looking the way that a regular database would look, but without using sensitive data to do that. And so what I wanted to talk about real quick here is what actually goes into that. Just to give you the behind the scenes look, because I might as well while I'm rambling here. So to have a ranked season, you need to have a ranked season document, which is basically the combination of a game mode, a combination of a region, and then an actual season number. So this CTF Season 1 North America is one ranked season. NF Season 1 North America is a separate ranked season. So each season document is its own of those three categories. Then inside of that, you have multiple days in your ranked season. Now, if you look on the left side of this leaderboard here, you can see these little numbers, plus up 8, up 2, down 1, down 1, down 2, down 3, new. All of those are only possible because we store a snapshot of where you were at the end of each day. And what that allows us to do is say, okay, we're going to look at where you are right now. You are in spot number 7. And then we're going to look back to the snapshots from a week ago and says, oh, you are spot number 15 at that point. So we know that you were at 15. Now you're at 7. That means your change is 8. But that's day by day. So it's a rolling 7-day period. And I've been teasing this for a while now. I can't show it to you just yet because it's not on production, obviously. But we are building the profile chart, which is going to show you day by day where your skill score was during that season. Privacy policies for chumps. Thanks, Hubble. And to do that, you have to know what your score was each day. So we have to save all of those snapshots. So you've got your season, and you've got all of the days in that season, which is a variable length. And then outside of that, you have your players, obviously, and you have their day-by-day adjustments, but you have to make sure that the player document, which has everything that's in front of me right now and more, has the final value of all of those things. And you need to make sure that there are games in the actual game history, because if you want to have that profile for the current season, it wants to see game-by-game updates. So we had to get that all set up as well. There's one more big one that I'm forgetting. I'm trying to remember on the fly here. Oh, please don't do this to me. Snapshots, days. Oh, the snapshots themselves. So I mentioned days. There's days for each day, but each day has a snapshot for every player who played a game on or before that day. So if 20 people play on the first day, there is one ranked season with one ranked day with 20 snapshots for that day for that season. On the second day, you now have one season with 2 days, 20 snapshots for the first day, 20 snapshots for the second day. So you can see one player from one day to the next. And if that number grows, now maybe you have 25 players on the second day, maybe you have 30 on the next day. So that number grows throughout the season. So to simulate all of that, we built a script that actually is working quite well. We just finished testing it this morning, but it took several days to even build it. So now that it's done, we can actually run that script on the secret server, get that database up to a point where it's usable, and start to test the majority of the features that we were planning to test and could not. So hopefully we can do that tonight. I'm still waiting to hear back from Bash because he's going to be the one who can get that set up for us on the secret database. But that's why now things have been pushed back a little bit later than I wanted them to be. I was hoping to have the release out by now, but because we couldn't test those things, our time instead went into helping us actually test that. So everything else I'm about to talk about is kind of related to that, but just the final few things getting merged in. We finished up the new player indicator for real. It's done. It's merged in. It's good to be tested. We've got the casual probability standards that I talked about last week, where we're expanding the tolerances for a casual game so it doesn't shuffle players as much in the pregame. It allows for slightly more imbalanced matches. That is merged in and done. We have a fix to a different thing that I actually didn't talk about yet, which is the Maps tab. I've talked about the error that pops up. That is fixed, but I did not talk about previews. So if you hover over a map, it shows you a preview of the map that you are looking at, which is nice, but it only does this for the current rotation. And I realized while we were testing on Secret, somebody found this, that doesn't exist for any of the other tabs. Retired, Classic, Trial, none of them have that preview on hover. It's only rotation that has that. And there's no reason not to have that. We have all the previews loaded into the site. So a fix went in that will show the previews for all the maps, even the retired, all the way down to your very old maps. So now all of that will work. You won't see this pop up anymore. All that is good to go and in for the next release. We found a different bug that we ended up not actually fixing, just related to groups. If you have seen in a group when you're dragging your name to a different team, occasionally you'll get a pop-up and I can't reproduce this very efficiently, but you'll get a pop-up that says we're seeing errors when you do this, basically. We figured out why it's happening. The problem is that it's a problem with jQuery, because we use a very outdated form of jQuery, which will be changed eventually. But we can't fix it on our end. We'd have to update the jQuery documents. So we held off on that change for now, because it's a very infrequent bug. It's not related to any recent changes that we made, but we are now tracking that bug internally. So we'll get that fixed up eventually. A couple more things about new players, lower standards, blah, blah, blah. We found another bug during testing where if you ended a private game manually, you click the end game button. I'm not going to set that up. If you click that, it was crashing because the VCR, which is what records the game data to send it to tagpro.eu, was trying to be disconnected, but it's not a real player, so it was just crashing the game. We got that fixed. Hello, Yappa. An exciting fix on the way. I haven't talked about this one either. Canvas rendering lines is a thing that people have noticed for a very long time now. Let me see if I can find an actual example of this for you guys. If you've been playing a game and you notice that depending on your zoom level or depending on where your ball moves, there are little, very thin black lines appearing in between the tiles in the background of your map, which is kind of hard to explain without just showing you a picture. So let me grab one here. So if you look here, there's these little black lines that occasionally will show up behind you as you're playing a game, and they kind of move around. It depends on the texture pack that you're using. If you're using a texture pack that shows actual tiles, you'll see these lines are always on the border of two wall tiles themselves. And we've had this problem for years, and we couldn't really figure out what was causing it until Bash was able to track down, we think, what the source of this is. So if you have this visual bug, take mental note of that. If you're still seeing it after the release, we're going to want to know about that. And I'll make sure that information is in the release notes as well. But hopefully, if we can get that fixed, that'll be a much nicer presentation of the game for a lot of people. So that fix is ready for testing. We haven't merged it in just yet, but that will make the next release. We've talked about backfilling ranked games to make sure that your full season data is available. We fixed a bug that was created or noticed during testing session with random flare, where if you have random flare selected on your profile, it was not highlighting all of them by default. It was just highlighting the edit button and not showing your actual flares. So that is back to what it should be now. Then a lot more discussion about the script that I just spent 5 minutes talking about. Yeah, a lot of back and forth on that. We found a different bug related to the view update to the leaders page on the scoreboard. Yeah, and that's pretty much everything that happened. That fix just got merged in about 2 minutes ago. So the only other thing that I haven't talked about because it didn't show up in our GitHub feed is the canny board. I've got Calvin working on the replacement for that. He's been putting some work in recently, and we hopefully will have that to a point that it can be deployed in 3-ish weeks from now. It looks like he's got it running locally the way that we want it to. It's just a little bit of a complicated thing to have attached to the site, because the way that we use it now, this feedback tab is hosted by Canny on a separate website. They host it, and we have an iframe that plugs it into our site. So to build the same thing for us, we have to have that other site to plug in to TagPro. We can't have it running on our actual server because that would slow down things like the joiner, and they're just not related processes, so it doesn't make sense to have them running in the same place. But we do have progress on that, and hopefully I'll have something to show for it in the next couple of weeks. So that is most of what's been going on behind the scenes. We've been getting everything. Yeah, we've just been getting everything we need in order to test properly. That's been the main focus. So now hopefully we can test tonight. If not tonight, definitely this weekend. And then if that goes well, there's only, I think, one other thing that needs to actually be built before we're ready to actually have the release. And that only other thing that needs to be built is the indicator of how many games you personally need to win to get each of those flares, instead of just showing you the summary of what anybody would need total to get those flares. So in a pretty good place. The things that we've been building have been working as expected, which is nice. So hopefully the next testing session is a quick one just to run through those and make sure there's nothing breaks. But you can never know until you know. So that is development in the last week. And This really feeds my back. I don't know what that means, but I'm glad that it's feeding your back. So from there, we're going to shift over to the candy board. We didn't get too many requests this week. And as I mentioned, we are kind of kneecapped right now because we're using the Insight version and not the behind the scenes version, but we'll still go through anything that has not been updated. The hard part here is figuring out what I've already responded to because I don't get these tags anymore, which is unfortunate. So I think we answered this one. Yep. And we answered this one. Did we only get one? That makes my life easy. Make voting time shorter for ranked games. This is an interesting request here. So people tend to be AFK at the beginning of ranked games. That's true. More than casual, yes, because there's a long voting period to wait through. So one way to shorten the voting time, to shorten the max time to 30 seconds, but maybe ending the vote after 5 people have chosen the same map. So I want to talk about some of the justification for the current system before I answer this question. So think about what has to happen on the map voting page. You are voting on maps, obviously. You can chat with your team. You're also waiting for players to actually arrive at that page. So think about the players who are in the joiner and they weren't paying attention. Not a big deal. Players who were in games is the bigger deal. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second, Grant. I have a thought about that as well. So the bigger thing to focus on right now with that is players who are in casual games being transitioned into ranked. Now, I've talked about that a lot in the past. If you have questions about why that system exists the way that it does, I'm happy to explain it again. But when you have players in casual games, you want to wait until they are respawning to replace them and pull them into your ranked game. You want to reduce the instance of a player in a casual game who's in the middle of something. Maybe they're holding the flag, maybe they're putting down an important block, fighting for a power-up. You want to reduce the times where a player is pulled out of a game while doing something like that. The way that we do that is wait for the player to pop. While they're respawning, the game says, hey, I need another player, finds one from the joiner, and replaces the person who's respawning very quickly. So that is the least impact on that casual game as possible. If you reduce the pregame voting in the ranked page to 30 seconds, you are increasing the likelihood that that 30-second timer will run out before the joiner can find a replacement for the person who's in the game. So that's number one to think about. Number two, if you're seeing players who are AFK at the beginning of ranked games, I'd be curious to know if those players voted on their maps in the pregame voting page. Because what I see personally, I don't have data to back this up other than my own impression, is that if a player is in the joiner for a long time, yes, they might walk away, they might go to a different tab and get distracted, and they might be AFK at the start of your game. But a shorter voting page isn't the reason that they are, a longer voting time is not the reason they're AFK. It's because they didn't realize they were in that voting page at all. They just got redirected into it and then from there into a game. So if you make that time shorter, I think you might actually increase the number of AFKs because you are decreasing the time it would take for someone to not check their tab and still be AFK. Because you have a full minute right now to check a tab and say, oh, I'm in a ranked voting page, and then you're going to stick around and know that you're in a game. If you reduce that time, you lower the likelihood of somebody actually seeing that. That's my personal impression. Then Grant says, I feel like I see somebody AFK for a second or two, but in casual, it feels like a third of my games start with an AFK. I feel like I see that as well. AFK and casual is much more common just because of the new players who don't know what's going on. So I'm not sure, again, that I'm seeing quite what Nikki is reporting here. Feedback actually punish people for giving up one cap and AFK soft vote the rest of the game. That's something you should be reporting to the mods, Dolph. If someone's soft voting or going AFK after one cap, that's against the rules. There's nothing else to say there. We are making adjustments similar to that. I think I've talked about this a couple weeks ago with the timing that it takes for a game to actually void. So we're reducing the pregame AFK timer so that if you are AFK, it kicks you a little bit sooner, and then it starts the voting for a void a little bit sooner, and then the time it takes for the vote to actually happen is also a little bit shorter. So the whole process from the game starting to the game voiding is being reduced from about, I think, 50-something seconds down to like 30 seconds-ish. So a lot quicker. And we could even shorten that more, but I don't want to get too aggressive with it and have to walk it back. I'd rather kind of increment our way down to a happy landing. So we'll see where that goes in the next release. My experience is I never get to vote ranked in a pub. Beach, I don't think I'm following. Are you saying that when you're in a casual game and you get pulled to a ranked game, the game just launches before you get the chance to vote? Because you should have about 5 seconds to vote, no matter what, when you get there. Um, if you start ranking AFK, we will kill you. My God, Moosin. Maybe we'll subject you to Moosin maps. But basically, the vote ends immediately. I'll have to check on the timing. How long does it take you to redirect between pages? Because that might be part of the problem. Because it should only be like a second to get you, and it pulls you out last resort. It pulls you out of your casual game when there are like 8 seconds to go on the voting page. So if it takes you fewer than 8 seconds to redirect, you should still have time to vote before that vote ends. So I'm curious to see why. I'll have to follow your let me just find your profile real quick. I'm just going to look up the logs to see what the timing is for you, to figure out if there's something going on there, because that should not be the case, what you're reporting. But anyway, let me respond to this here. I can't even close these now. Ah, that's terrible. Shorter voting time periods may actually increase AFK instances, as AFK players often did not realize they were in the voting page to begin with. The longer time is also important for the casual to ranked redirect system. Okay, that's good enough for now. And I think we had 1 or 2 bug reports that we'll talk about briefly, and then we'll move on to our feature building session. But not enough to vote, huh? Just all caps denied. Oh, I see. Like I can write that on the, got it. Did we get any? Is this loading? Bug reports new. Oh, it's Beach. Yeah, so this is something we've been talking about for about a week now. We're trying to figure out what's going on here. So if you use a Mac and you have a frame rate of 120 FPS, reach out to me so we could talk about this a little bit more. We haven't been able to narrow down what the problem is here. Our first guess is that Mac OS recently put out an update, and if you have an out-of-date system, it might not be talking properly with your browser. To summarize the problem for people, players who are on Macs and running high frame rates are dropping frames. Basically, that's the easy version. There's a little bit more to it than that, but the game looks wrong. It's choppy. It's not moving the way you would expect it to, and it seems to be happening across all browsers, across all game modes, and like times of day, other things running on your computer. All of that seems to be unrelated to it, which is why we think it's probably the operating system itself, just because it's been updated recently and something is not quite talking properly to the browser. So if you have Mac and you're having this problem, reach out to me, especially if you have already updated your operating system and it's still a problem, because we're trying to figure out what we can actually do to reproduce this problem to then go on and fix it. So your frame rate is 175. That's definitely more than 120. So I'm gonna say that's a safe answer there. So is that it for the feedback stuff? I thought we had one other thing. Did it come from the... No, I guess that's it. Yep, okay, so I kind of got through that pretty quickly, but we're going to move on to our testing the last 3 major Mac releases. All right, DM me. We'll talk through that a little more. I did see you had some comment responses on stuff you commented on last week. Well, let's go check that real quick then before I move on, because we're a little ahead of schedule here. Like what? Be happy to forego the whole, seeing the whole map. Yeah, okay, so Zena's saying, so I talked about this last week. They're saying that they want a shorter map voting countdown. We do have a shorter one. We put it at 10 seconds because, like it says here, we want that zoom out and zoom in. The zoom in happens at 6 seconds. So the pre-game countdown can't be shorter than 6 seconds, or it will start zoomed in and you won't see the whole map. It's not a major deal breaker, but if you think about some of the maps you've never seen before, especially a new player, it's nice to see the whole thing and then zoom in to see it. So we went for 10 seconds just to give people a chance to connect and then see everything, and then it will zoom in. Zenu's saying they don't think that's necessary. I'm going to pull rank here and say I do think it is necessary, especially for the new players who want to kind of see what's going on. It's nice to give them a little bit more context for the game that they're in. So frame drop does not explain system hangs. I agree with that statement. So let's talk through what we can on Discord, please. I thought I got somebody else DMing me about, what was it? Oh, another thing that happened was I finally got the map test committee members their ranked, or their map test flares. We've been behind behind on that one. So if you are on the map test committee, you should have your MTC flare now. Thank you for being an MTC member. All right, what else did we get responses to? Keep opening tabs. Respawn icons. Nope. Did you have a specific one, Grant, that you saw? Or was it looks like I got all these in a good spot. Will any of these changes affect the upcoming hot dog flare, says Cursor Saucy. That is classified information that I'm not permitted to talk about on this stream. Thank you for understanding. They immediately go and yank Flume. Yeah, the MTC had a meeting last night. They had about a 3-hour meeting talking about the current state of the rotation, talking about the ranked rotation as well, because they know that ranked season 1 is coming to a close soon. Hopefully, well, definitely the end of the month. It's going to happen before then, but the exact date will be announced soon. I really feel like I'm missing something that happened, though, behind the scenes. So was it maybe some social media stuff? We have a couple of videos on the way, but nah, whatever. Let's move on to our feature building session, which this week came following a discussion with the MTC about map voting. And this is a 2-part prompt because we know that with the incoming shop in a couple of months, we're going to have rewards for insight actions. And so what that means is if you do a thing that we want you to do, we're going to give you something in exchange for doing that thing. And the obvious example there for what I'm about to talk about is map voting. So if you are in a game and the game ends, I don't have a good way of showing this right now, but if you're in a game, the game ends, on the scoreboard in the bottom right corner, there's a little map voting thing that says, I like it, I'm indifferent, I don't like it. And those same voting options are visible on the Maps tab where you can vote on what you like. That little pop-up there is only visible at the end of games. And if you haven't played in a while, it'll shake a little bit to kind of like prompt you to vote again. And those votes are important because the map test committee uses them to help guide their decision making. And for front-end display, you can't actually see a map until it reaches 100 votes. So it's a bit of a bummer sometimes to not get any votes because people don't know how their maps are doing until the MTC removes it, which is unfortunate. So what we wanted to talk about today is what can we do to make that little pop-up there a bit more appealing, a little more obvious, and then what should we offer as a reward for doing it as well. So we've got a couple things here. That top one happens to me. Spectate mode crashes in Chrome. Crashes my whole computer. Josh, send me a DM. We'll talk through that because I think if we can reproduce that, we can do something about it. But you were there last night. Where's my MTC flare? You got to be on the MTC beach. You can't just join their meetings. Yeah, so they have applications if you want to apply to the MTC. Reach out to a current member. If you don't know where to do that, if you go to the Discord, you can go to the Maps General channel and just bother an MTC member. If you don't know where the Discord is, I'll send a link real quick. This is the official Discord server. If you find the Maps General channel in that server, the MTC can help you get set up. The other thing, I didn't check the Future Group Friday questions form. Oh, we got a bunch of responses, actually. Let's talk through those as well. If you don't know what that form is, this URL right here. If you submit any questions to this form, you can have anonymous questions. I will answer them live on stream. And let's do that with the ones that we got here. So, five biggest roadblocks to releasing on Steam at this moment. That's an interesting question. I think my biggest problem is that I don't think of these as roadblocks. I think of them just as like milestones, maybe more so than roadblocks. But let's just talk about what needs to happen before the game can get up on Steam. Number one, the obvious one, is that I want that shop up and running. I really want some sort of reward system and kind of motivation system, because the number of things you can do on the shop that relate to things that Steam really promotes, like your Steam achievements and all that, those all kind of flow together. So we need some kind of incentive system to keep people engaged with the game, and especially with a larger audience. I think it's going to be important to have some sort of currency in the game. Again, I don't want your money. I just want you to be motivated to play the game. So that is the number one thing that needs to happen, is getting that shop out the door. After that, the Steam page itself needs to get up and running. We're running into some issues that I can't really get into right now in terms of who, this isn't the right word for it, but like who owns the Steam site that we're setting up. It should be TagPro as an entity owns it. So we're just getting all that in order now. That's, again, more behind the scenes than anything else. We need to get the new player onboarding into a better place right now. It's better than it used to be, but it could use some work for sure. And what that means is more like incentives for referring like your friends in, ways to help. We've talked about in the past, like group queuing, getting players to play together with their friends in a certain way. We need more stuff that allows you to be like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm still having fun. And I think we can do that, but that fun is somewhat dampened by the ratio of really experienced to really inexperienced players that we have. So I'm going to go off the prompt for a second here, but talk about Steam. It's more likely that with Steam, we get it up as a beta first, and we say, yeah, the game is on Steam, but we're not like promoting it to the whole world until we can get all of those little things in order to then actually promote it. Because if we just go ahead and promote on Steam, we say the game's on Steam, go live, boom, whatever, we'll get some new players, sure. There should be some level of a push, but if it's not enough of a push, it's kind of like a fizzle out kind of situation where we want it to be something that kind of feeds onto itself. It becomes a sustainable source of new players, and you don't really get that if you just have an okay game that you throw out into the void. Because there are some crazy stats out there with the number of games released every day on Steam. It's a staggering number of games that a lot of them are just kind of not meant to be big, but we don't want to be grouped into that category of not meant to be big, right? Our goal is to get more players to play this game. I want to do that right the first time. You only get one real shot at a release like that. So I think one thing working in our favor there is that obviously the game's been around for a long time. It's not like we are in a situation that if we wait an extra like month or two to get something in order, that we're losing extra. Like, those players are still going to be there when we are ready to release. We just need to make sure the game itself, as it is now, stays alive while we get all those things in order. So it's a weird balance. I haven't decided exactly when along that pathway, back to the prompt, like what roadblock or what milestone is like the defining one to get us to a point where we say, let's pull the trigger and go for it. But I think just to really answer the question, shop, new player onboarding, marketing are the three big things that I want to be in a stable place. And by marketing, I mean like your social media posts on a bit more regular basis, and your what do you call it? Like the text posts, more than just like we have a TikTok, we have videos going out and stuff like that. But I want more like a Facebook page. I want more Instagram stuff, like all the other peripheral sites that we have accounts for. We just don't have people driving the cart right now on those sites. So it's just little things that need to be more stable, not big things that really need to be like perfect, I guess. I don't know, I'm kind of rambling here, but I don't think of them as roadblocks. It's just kind of, we have a very large roadmap with a lot of things on it. We just kind of have to keep going. It's not like there's one thing that we're stuck on that we can't do. It's just we got to do it all. So hopefully that answered your question. Feel free to ask a more specific one if you'd like. Yeah, Steam is not a technical challenge. We could have put the game on Steam a year ago, but it would have been for nothing. Like we might have the same exact player size that we have now with the work that had been put in. Like the game, we enjoyed the game, but we enjoyed it from such a skewed perspective because I've been playing this game for 13 years now. Like, things that new players aren't ever going to figure out right off the bat. We need to lower that barrier way more than we have, and we've done a lot to lower it, but it just needs to go lower to really become appealing to a larger audience still. So. Yeah, spiffy. That's a good word. We need to get the game spiffy. So, challenge ideas. 55% win rate over 20 games, 65-75, get your gold to spend at the shop. That's not a question. They are ideas, though. Yeah, we talked about that on stream a couple weeks ago. We had a little brainstorming session for things that you can do in a game or around a game that earn coins, and I think that sustained win rates or sustained something is probably worth it. I would lean away from doing that in casual, though, just because the goal with casual, and this kind of plays into the Steam conversation, the goal with casual is for the game to be fun and approachable and not that serious. If you have things like rewards for high win rates, yes, we have the win rate flares, but those are more grandfathered in. You don't want players getting toxic because they're like, I need to win this game to get this reward. So if I lose this game, I'm going to take that out on Timmy Sunball, like the new player who found the game. And Timmy Sunball's name did come from that expression. I'm not calling her out for that. Where was I going with that? So yeah, with the win rate stuff, I'm okay with something like that for ranked. Like you got your win rates, you got your streaks. Like on the leaderboard, you have the little fire thing. If you're on a hot streak, I think that should be worth more than not being on a hot streak. I think that's fine to promote in ranked. But for casual, I shy away from promoting win rate based things. Can we bail ourselves and our friends out of mutes bans with tag coins? No, it's unlikely that the tag coins are going to be related to moderation. There are a lot of changes planned for the moderation system. I think we've talked about those on stream in the past, mostly trying to get things in a place where they can work at scale. That is our biggest limitation. That's not something I would hold the Steam release for, but it is something that I would be really pushing to the top of the list if numbers start to grow. Because the moderation system that we have right now is fine. Like it's not fantastic, but it certainly works. But at scale, it would absolutely crumble because like your appeal system just is not a good system for like multiply the number of players we have right now by 10. If you increase the number of players by 10, statistically speaking, you're going to increase the workload of moderation by about 10-ish, maybe a little bit less because you have more monitors and they can stay on top of more games percentage-wise, but it's going to increase with that. And we don't have the capacity as a mod team to handle that right now just because of the amount of manual work it takes to handle some of the tasks that we do day to day. So increasing or decreasing the workload and increasing the automation of that mod system is definitely a higher priority if the game does start to grow. But no, it would not be a coin-based reward where you can say, I want to get out of this ban, I'm going to dump 1,000 coins and I can play again. No, that is not going to happen. Would win rate flares be disabled from being obtained eventually? Yeah, we had that conversation when ranked was initially being released. I thought it was going to be a bigger deal than it was in truth. This is an oversight on my part. I thought the players were really going to be upset about the fact that win rate flares were removed, but I also thought that it was bad to keep them in because you're promoting that toxic mentality of I need to earn these flares. Thankfully, so many people either have the axe or stopped caring about the axe because it's been around for so long and out of reach that there wasn't really any response to that. People just kind of moved on from it. So those flares are still obtainable. Because the response to them has been sort of muted and nobody seems to really be that worried about being able to earn them or not, I don't think it's worth removing them from casual, especially with consideration for the fact that we're going to make them more obtainable in the near future with those win rate adjustments. So these numbers are lower than they've ever been right now because of the balancing system that we have. When we increase those tolerances down to the 25%, you will see higher win rates for the stronger players in these games, which I think is fine as long as we don't see players going insane because they haven't gotten a flare and they're close to it yet. So we're going to keep an eye on that. That is something I was considering with the expansion of the tolerances, but I don't think that it's enough of a problem to have to worry about removing those flares because they're cool flares. I like having them. I like having them as a thing that you can still earn, but I don't want them to be like the go-to thing for this player is good at the game either. That should be your ranked flares and all of these over here. So can we offer protection for certain balls if they pay a monthly tag coin installment? Where are you going with this? If they refuse to pay, we pop them? My goodness, Wilson. You're trying to start the TagPro Mafia in here. Coin-based. No. Being fourth to 64 is nuts. Yeah, it's very different than it used to be on this board. You used to have a couple players over 75 constantly. What am I at? I'm at 65, but I'm not active. RIP. I'd be right there. Third. Look at me. TagPro needs a bit of edge. I'll leave that up to a different group of people to make that call. Did the same person submit all three of these questions? Do you foresee yourself working on TagPro after the Steam release? Yeah. I'm not just going to waltz into the sunset here. I mean, this is a long-term project that we're working on. I think in terms of my personal involvement, I don't know if I've ever said this on stream before, but I think I've mentioned it on Discord. My focus, the things that I work on, are where I feel like the game needs the most time to be spent on it. So I started out as a moderator, and I kind of saw the lay of the land. I realized that it was not a good system. I rebuilt that entire system. Did the same thing with the North American Competitive League. Like, if I think a thing is important for the game to survive, and that thing is not being supported in the capacity that it needs to be, that's where I focus my time on. And that's why I am currently a developer for the game. It's because development progress was, and somewhat is right now, the slowest step on progress for the game. Things like the map test committee, I started to help out with that when it was getting into its new format, but the MTC is very active right now. They're doing a great job. They don't need me to be a part of that, so I've stepped away from it. So would I work on TagPro after the Steam release? Absolutely. Whether I work on development or social media or anything different, I can't say right now because I have to see how things look when we get there, but I don't have any reason to not continue to work on this game long term here. So any plans for tag clans? Actually, not concrete plans, but I do want to ramble about that for a second because it's kind of a funny premise. I have thought about, I'm not going to call them tag clans, but a way to have some more interaction on the site right now. So you've got your individual players, your win rates, and all of that. It's all very specific to you. There's not very many like team things that you can do. So I have considered, and again, this is not a real plan. This is not confirmed happening, but I have considered some sort of like team challenges where you could make call it a clan if you want, a group of people who it's like a max of 5, and you have like a weekly challenge where you do something to earn something. Like you could have a gravity challenge, and the team that finishes it the fastest gets a certain number of points. And then you could have like number of ranked games won in a week kind of thing. And you could have all these different stats that are unrelated, but it's your team as a whole trying to complete all of these tasks. And then you bring them all together and you're comparing teams against one another. I think you could have some pretty fun interactions with that, similar to what you would do for, I think where you're going is like a Clash of Clans thing. Yeah. So that would be built off of the friend system, like Oddball mentioned. It would have to require some more player to player interaction being possible, but I think it'd be fun to have a little bit more of a competitive environment, like Riley's saying there. You want something that motivates people to log in, to play, and to do something they actually enjoy doing, not to feel like it's a workload. And I think that the more you can bring people together and to have that social aspect, the more you promote having fun in the process. So, so not concrete, but I do think it'd be fun to have some sort of team-based thing in the future. So, plan for tag coins, back to those pub. We are the same. Yeah. Okay, so feel free to ask any more questions if you have them. I got that form in the chat, I think. Did I put it in there? Forgot to pin it, I think. There you go. And that same form is on the description for the YouTube section and on Reddit if you find this video through any of those avenues. But in the absence of any more questions, let's get over to the feature building session. So I wish I could show you what it looks like, but I'm sure everyone here at least understands that on the scoreboard, post game, there is a small box with a voting drop down for I like it, I am indifferent, I don't like it. Now, we are not talking about changing that system. That is up to the MTC if they want to switch to a different system. I don't personally care all that much, but we do have a 3-point system. We're going to keep that 3-point system for now, so don't suggest that, please, Bambi. Anyway. With that, we have a shake. The box shakes after your first game. This is right now what happens. After your first game on a map, the box shakes every 10th game after the first if you have not submitted a rating in 10 plus games. So that's very infrequent. We had a map test committee member who didn't know that the shake even existed. They weren't aware that it shook, so they asked us if I think at Black Orchid if we could add in a shake so that people would see it, and the answer is that we already do that, but it's not very obvious clearly. So I think that what we're trying to talk about is how often should that box make itself more obvious, and then what does that actually look like? What does more obvious look like? What other incentives can we offer? And the answer to this one's pretty simple. It's going to be coins for the shop, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. So, frequency. And this is somewhat based off of a conversation that I had briefly with the MTC, so I'm going to have a little bit of a structure here, but feel free to chime in as I'm going here. Right now, the system of every 10th game is kind of silly, because if you are not voting on a map and it shakes once every 10 games, you're not going to see that. Like, you might maybe notice it, but it's not like motivating you to do it. It's gone after that one game. So if you forget to vote on the one that it shakes, it's not going to shake again for 10 more games. I personally think that's a little silly, because if you want somebody to vote on a thing, you can't just prompt them once and then they ignore it and be like, oh well, and then just wait 10 more games to do something about it. That could be like a month later by the time that they've played 10 more times. So I think that my personal inclination is to have it shake every game if they have not voted in that 10 games. Yeah, that's what I think it should be, Grant, is that it should keep shaking so that you still say, hey, you haven't voted. Hey, vote on me. Like, keep every time you play it. If the player has not voted in 10 plus games. And then shake on the first game, I think, is fine. But is there some balance between those two that we should be trying to toe? And we can come back to that in a second, because let's talk about what does more obvious look like. Appearance, we'll call it. So right now, the animation it's literally just, it moves back and forth a little bit like that. I think that we can do a little bit more to make that a little bit more obvious. What I want to talk through are some of the options that we have for moving a thing. So we can shake side to side, shake up and down. You can change color, change size. You could also move in a circle. You can change color, you can change size, you can change opacity if you wanted to. And that's kind of it in terms of like annoying things. You could also have audio cues. I'm not super big on that, but it's possible. Every game, the map voting dropdown gets slightly bigger until it takes over the whole scoreboard until you vote. You want to see your stats? Better vote on that map, bud. So that is an option. There was something else that I wanted to put here, which was... Nope, maybe that was it. So we can do a combination of all of these things as well. And what does that look like? So I do like the idea that it gets progressively more annoying. I think that there should be a maximum. So let's talk about what the most annoying thing we could possibly do is. Because I think the least annoying thing we could do is what we do right now. The current system is the least annoying system possible. Most annoying would be crash their whole computer like we do for Josh. Yes, perfect. Blow up computer. I'm thinking that the most annoying thing would be like a bell ringing thing where it gets larger and it shakes as it pops up off of the screen with an audio cue attached to it. So I think is there a thing on Discord that does this? It's like a does that description make sense of what I'm saying? Where it's like the whole thing just kind of goes like towards you, shaking while growing in size with audio cue. So I think that we want to find somewhere between the two of these things. And to Grant's point, it can be something that gets progressively more annoying until you do something. But I'm not sure that I want it to get that annoying at any point by the end of it. So have some sort of post-vote indication that you earn tag coins once those are in would be good to have, 100%. So there should be, and this can be more in other incentives, coins awarded for voting indicated via what? Do you have like a little money bags? Do you have a certain color associated with the drop down? What do you do that says click me and I will give you money? I think this is where font awesome can sometimes come into play. Wow, the filter stops dummy. That's good. I like your idea about the vote drop down consuming the whole scoreboard eventually. Want to see your scoreboard on the map? Yeah, I think that's funny. Definitely more annoying than what I have here, but probably not great in terms of best practices for the internet. But let's look at font awesome real quick for a second, see if there's anything obvious that jumps out as like a this will give you money kind of thing. Money. Okay, we got coins. That's safe. That's kind of cute. Bitcoin. There you go. I kind of like this one over here. We'll save that real quick. Interesting. Not a whole lot in the ways of coins, it looks like. Yeah, not crazy about those. Coins with flags on them? What kind of flags? Oh, like little TagPro flags? That's more aligned with the icon. Yeah, I guess it could just be the icon that we use for tag coins that we've decided on. I forget if I announced what that was going to be yet on stream. I might as well while I'm here. If you were familiar with the old okay, what was the name of that site? I can't even remember now. The site where you used to be able, I think Y Lambda hosted it, where you could send people tag coins and they could send you tag coins, and the icon was a little circle with a flag on it. That was the tag coin. So we're bringing that back as our tag coin. And I think it's like a fun callback, but also a practical symbol that we have. TagPro.lol, yeah, that's what it was. So that site no longer exists, unfortunately, but we found some old screenshots of it and we were able to recreate the icon that they had. So I'm pretty happy with that. So we could just have tag coin icon very down now. Yeah, so where would you put the icon though? Do you put it outside of the box only when you're, because you're not going to offer coins every single game somebody plays it. So it's not going to be every game you vote, you get more coins. It would be like every, I don't know, Moosin, your input here is important. Is it like every 5th game your vote is valid again and you get something for it? Every 10th game? Like how many games does somebody need to play before their feedback is important to reinforce? Because if you play it once and then don't play it for a month and then play it again, is that re-voting as important as somebody who played it 10 times and then played it 10 more times? Like which one of those players do you want more feedback from or want any feedback from? Or is it the same in both of those cases? Like would you do a time-based thing or a games played based thing is my actual question. Because if it's time-based, few games, but fresh perspective. If it's games-based, you get like more in-depth knowledge, I guess. / opinion. On my maps, I don't want people to be allowed to vote until they play it multiple times, but that's not realistic. No, it is not. We're inching toward becoming Fortnite? What is that? What do you mean by that? What? We are nothing like Fortnite. That is a preposterous statement. If the game has money, it is Fortnite. Is Fortnite the first game to have a currency system? I find that hard to believe. I'm thinking no on that front. But we could also do a combination of time and game based. Like if you have, you could be making Fortnite. I don't want Fortnite money. It's a game about balls. We could do a combination of the two here. So what would that look like? Command and conquer with like a word. Yeah, that's a money based. Yeah. Add Sabrina Carpenter to TagPro. I'll get right on that. What is it? What is a combination of time and game based look? It's like if you go 5 games or 1 month without voting, earn coins for another vote. Or if you've gone a month without playing, is your vote really important? Say again, Mootson, this is a question for you. If you have played a game once and then you don't play that map again for a full month and then you play that map again, is your feedback valid? Does the MTC want to know what you think about that map after that play? Not you personally, the MTC. Because I would think that after a month, it's kind of like you're seeing it for the first time again. You're still getting, if you don't count those, you lose a bunch of data. That's a very good point. Yeah, we do, because the whole point is to promote more voting so the MTC has more data to work with, as long as that data is valid. Data for the sake of data is not great. Tumblewood had a good point about this. You don't want to be motivating people to just click a random option, because then you get more votes, but the votes that they're casting don't mean anything. You want people to vote the way they actually feel about something. But yeah, I think to your point, we can't really exclude those. We don't have the luxury of saying that somebody who votes is not valid. Make it look like they haven't voted. Yeah, that's a good point. So we should make it look like, oops. Make it look like a player has not voted, even if they have. And I think that we would have to have a fourth option on the drop down as a null option, because right now we default to I'm indifferent as your option, which is, it is a true neutral vote. It's like, I don't really care about this, so I haven't voted up or down either way. But if your vote is truly that I am indifferent, you're not going to be motivated to click on that and to select it because it's already there. You're like, oh, it's good. It says I'm indifferent, and that's what I am, so I'm not going to vote on it. And I think that if you put it at, well, that could be our incentive. Now, if we have the fourth option, instead of being like a null thing, we could say like click here for coins kind of thing. And then you put the icon or whatever, vote for coins, or you could put just a vote now with icon, and then times 10 or whatever the number of coins you're going to get for that vote is. It's null on the maps page, is it? Am I crazy? Oh, select. Does it do that in game? Vote now. Beach says I'm indifferent in the game. Because it says select here. I agree with that. That's very clearly just says select. But in the actual game, does it say that, or does it say I'm indifferent? I don't want to join a game right now. I should have my local up so I can join my own games. But if it is that, I think that saying vote now with the icon times 10, that kind of solves both problems, because you start off of the vote entirely. And even if that's just replacing the text for select, like if you look at select here, just replace this with, let's just cheese it for a visual here. And then pretend that's a little icon with like the actual coins. I think it's safe because it tells you, okay, I haven't voted yet. You have all three options to pick from. And then you know right off the bat that if you click on that thing, it's giving you 10 coins because it says it right there on the drop down. Does that seem workable as a starting point? It's not like a flawless UI thing, obviously, but I think if that had a little icon on it, that wouldn't be too bad. I'm going to save that. Coins will be sick, like whatever gets people to play, honestly. That's the goal. Get people to play. Spinning signs for TagPro got paid. we do want to do at some point, I don't know when this would happen, but like a referral system. Like if you have a friend who plays and in the startup thing, you can say like referred to TagPro by XYZ. If they get to like 10 degrees, you get a reward for that. I think that'd be a fun like incentivizing like getting new players and getting your friends to play the game kind of thing. I think that'd be worth exploring. But okay, so I like that a lot. So what do we do to this now in the actual game with these options to make it obvious? So I think what I lean toward is this without the audio cue. Maybe do you work your way up to that? I like the progressively more annoying approach. So I'm just going to keep making messy bullet points and we'll come back and clean it up later. Start subtle. Make the notification more annoying with each subsequent, is that the word? Each subsequent play without voting. So after one game, no vote. The current shaking is fine. 2 games, maybe it grows a little bit while it shakes. Wow. Grow while shaking. So it kind of comes out a little bit, but it's still just kind of shaking. 3 games, grow and rotate. So I'm saying after 1 game, shake side to side. After 2 games, grows and shakes side to side. After 3 games, it rotates and it shakes side to side kind of thing. And then past that, you just 4+ progressively larger growth while shaking up to, I don't know, like a 50% size increase. Ish. It's the kind of thing that we'd have to actually see it in action to make a decision on it, but just to get it good to get the thoughts down to mess with that. Do you really want to annoy people into voting? I can see people voting dislike just because of that. I think that if we're offering them something for the vote, it's okay. But I do think it's worth considering. Anduin, welcome to the stream. Give it a background color or something so it stands out as an action item. Would that be for all of the options or only for the more annoying options? Because what does it look like now? I wish I had a screenshot of a page. I might just go play a pub just to get the damn thing. But could someone go play a game and then send me a screenshot of the post game thing so I can just put it on the stream and look at it? Because right now I think the background is transparent. I think it's just the map behind the voting thing. So we can make that a solid color. You could also add like little lines around it. Do my secondary scoreboard idea, you could do more obvious background stuff too. Did I miss that, Musin? What's the secondary scoreboard? Oh, it's this giant right here. Okay. Ranked now has a secondary scoreboard that shows skill changes. Yes, we could break out the map voting menu like that as well. I see. That's an interesting thought. So you're saying that... I don't think replays have map voting, Beach, do they? And I'll look. Yeah, it doesn't show up in replays. But to Moosen's point, saying that at the end of ranked games, we have this little pop-up down here. Give it a second. Right there, boom. So he's saying if we took advantage of this modal and we said, okay, for casual, obviously there are no ranked results. And for ranked, you're not voting on maps at the end of games. Do you keep this kind of system where something pops up and make that be your map voting page? I'm not horribly opposed to it. I think my concern is that we don't really have enough information to justify that much more space. Because all we're really asking is, do you like the thing or not? But it would make it more obvious if it's on its own popping up like that. It could be the kind of thing where we have that pop up at the bottom only if you haven't maked it. Yeah, so I think Opal just got to the same conclusion as I did. Keep it in where it is now until we're like, hey, you really should vote on this thing. And at that point, maybe that's when you pop it up at the bottom, like, hey, look at me, vote on the thing. And that could be a bit more of a motivator. So let me write that thought down. Keep the small icon in the bottom right of the scoreboard until X games, basically when we want another vote. After that, use the space displaying post-game ranked updates to display a post-game map voting drop-down with longer explanation reward description. I like that thought. You got a video of it crashing. Nice. Hello, Thanos Ball. Welcome. Yeah, so you could still do the shaking, you could still do the popping up, but if they get to like, maybe this is the most obvious one, like you do the shaking and all that, but if they really just don't vote on it, then we start to pop up at the bottom. I think my only problem with that is more from a consistency standpoint. I don't love switching where a thing is on the page depending on factors that sometimes the player is not really aware of. But at the same time, it's not that obnoxious. You could have it be a little bit more obvious, because right now, if you follow where it comes from, like it just kind of comes out of nowhere. If we had it kind of, sorry, I can't show what my hands are on the screen. If you had it on the scoreboard and then it kind of grew up into that larger thing, so it shows that they're connected, instead of every once in a while, that button you're used to being there just doesn't exist anymore, and this new thing shows up. Are they related? Yes, we know that obviously, but not everyone would be able to put that together. So I think if it shows small thing, grows into big thing at the bottom, it kind of completes both of those requirements at the same time. Let me write that down before I forget it. Keep small icon. When icon is ignored too many games, have it grow into a separate pop-up style. I'll just say modal for now. Beneath the scoreboard with longer explanation. etc. Good. Josh sent me a screenshot. Josh, is it okay if I play this on the stream just to see what's going on? To them has been sort of muted, and nobody seems to really be that worried. Hey, it's my voice. I don't think it's worth removing them from casual. So you're just watching a game here. I gotta mute this. So you're just watching a game. You have a script running. Keep that in mind. Rolling 300 script. I don't know if that's stable or not. And you said it happened at 4:42. Okay. Oh, it looks a little slow there. Hold on. Did it start to slow down for you? It looks like your frames are a little choppier. Okay, and then it crashes. And by crashes, you mean the whole thing just kind of turns off? I see your portals are messed up too. Yeah, so it just freezes. The page still exists. Whoa, what the heck just happened? Ah! Interesting. So your socket's still connected and still receiving updates from something, but it's only one player. Oh, that is weird. That's really weird. Okay. Noted. Okay, yeah, that's a good starting point for us to figure out what's going on there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to spend some more time on that off stream to figure out what's going on there. That's definitely a more complicated thing. Watching that video crashed your stream tab. Very sorry, Musin. Anyway, back to what we were talking about here. We've got a pop-up that gets a little bit more annoying and shakes a little bit if you really just don't do anything by maybe the 5th game. So let's say too many games is like 5 games. after the 5th game, then we say, okay, this person's clearly not getting it. We want them to vote. We're going to now grow that box into a separate modal below the scoreboard, kind of like it shows for ranked. And we're going to say, hey, vote on this thing. If you vote, you're going to get coins. If you vote, it helps the MTC. Like, just give a little bit of a short blurb about why voting is important, but not taking up the scoreboard space, not covering anything else up. It's just shifting everything a little bit to the side, or up and down, I guess. Yeah, I think that works for me. And then I want to talk about the color a little bit more. So Anduin mentioned that a different color would be good. I don't think that I want to change the scoreboard opacity though, because if you look at this, like everything here is semi see-through, including these buttons. It's hard because there's nothing behind them right now. But if you zoom in, oh wait, are they not? No, you can see that the lines of the tiles still show through. This is all see-through stuff. That's the same goes for the map voting thing when it appears over here. So I want to keep that in some capacity because it's not good to have inconsistency there where you have some elements that you can't see through and some that you can. It's just a little bit jarring to look at. It's okay with things like text, obviously, because you want to be able to read it, but we could make it less see-through. I think that's a doable change, but I'm not sure that's going to really change how much people are willing to vote in it. I think motion is what captures the eye, not opacity, more often than not, but I could be wrong about that. I'm not a professional by any metric. So, okay, well, that gives us some options to start from for messing around with it. I think this is definitely something that would be more feedback driven than anything. We'd have to try it out, see how it looks in testing, see how people respond to it. It's hard because you don't want to ask people what they think about it because then they're looking for it, and then their opinion on how much it catches their attention is biased because they're already thinking about looking for it. So I almost want to just not tell anybody that we're putting it in a testing session and just have it up there with the other thing that we're testing something else, but it's just also there, and see if anybody notices it and have that mostly be our metric. And I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot by explaining that here on stream to people who are probably going to be at our testing sessions, but I think it's still a workable option for a later session. So Anduin says, I was thinking a patch of color or white behind the box. So more of like a glow almost, because a glow and opacity are slightly different things. I think a glow might actually be nice where you have it kind of like breathing at you a little bit. What's something that does that? We have that on the random, like see how the purple kind of glows a little bit? You could do something like that behind the map voting where it just kind of, it's not taking up more space. It's not changing how like see-through it is, but it is making it a little more of an active element rather than like a static passive thing that you ignore. So let me make a note about that as well. Border glow. You could say current shake is fine, and then maybe instead of grow while shaking, you have glow breathe outline, and that could be something cool. I like it. Pulse or flash is part, yeah. The most annoying thing would be you have to pay a tag tax if you don't do your civic duty. You have to show up to TagPro jury duty and vote on ban appeals of your peers. We're going to crowdsource moderation to the fullest extent. If you don't vote in federal elections, you have to pay. That's kind of cool, actually. Games with only some balls. Yeah, we're going to put you in oddballs machine learning lobbies with players who have very, very low skill scores. All right. I like where that ended up. I think that's a good spec. We've got about 10 more minutes to kill here. Does anybody have anything else they want to suggest or to unpack related to this? Also, thanks for the follow, Moosin. That was an hour ago, but I just saw it now. Appreciate that. And for those who don't like following on Discord or on Twitch, there is also a Discord event that's a recurring event. So you can also mark yourself as interested on that, and it will notify you every week when the stream goes live. But otherwise, just looking at the last thing, we did have another thing come in on the GitHub stream. Ah, nice. We just merged in the player click in private games. So if you're playing in egg ball games and you click on a player name because you're passing the egg, that will no longer have the report screen pop up in your game, because that's very annoying and obviously not what you want to do. And you can't even report people in private lobbies, so there's no reason to have that. What do you think we should have tag taxes for? Oh boy. I think we should have tag tax if you are salty in chat. Yep, that's my only answer. To tax bracket based on how salty you are. Inactivity tax. That's not going to motivate people to come back. They're like, if I come back, I have to pay a bunch of tag coins. I'm just going to never come back. I'm done. Fail. How I feed my family this is salt tax? I don't know. Go to the ocean. I can't help you. Can't help you. All right. Well, I think I'm happy to call it quits a little early here. I think this is a good, relaxed stream, a little more Q&A than usual, which is good. Just to say it again, if you have any questions for me, we've got that form that is pinned in the chat and also in the description of the YouTube video. And if you want to talk about more explicit suggestions, go to the feedback tab on the website. You can see it over on the right here. Anything you submit here, we will go through on stream together. And if you have a suggestion for a larger thing that would require a little more discussion and brainstorming, you can always shoot me a DM and we can talk about it here on stream. So, thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope you have a good rest of your Friday. Happy Valentine's Day for those who celebrate tomorrow, and a good weekend and all that. And otherwise, I will see you all later.